All right, it is Wednesday, July 7th of 2021, and we are back with our weekly EMP review. I'm your host, Chauncey. I'm joined by chef and entrepreneur Brandy. Hey, Brandy.
Hey, Chauncey, how you doing this week?
I'm here.
Look at that.
You know, we've just come from the holiday weekend. Independence Day is over. I still have smoke in my apartment. Who knows why? Who knows
Leftover
why?
barbecue remnants. It was Independence Day.
Oh,
People.
leftover barbecue remnants. Now, in Italian, it's grigliata. It's barbecue. Why am I saying that? You'll find out later. But for now, Brandy, go ahead. Tell us. We have EMP Drea joining us off cam, doing great work there. So if you're here live, chime in whichever comment section you see. But Brandy, tell us, what is EMP? What's the membership? What's the benefit?
Yeah, so Entrepreneur Meal Plan is a community for entrepreneurs looking to do business and life well. What does that mean? It means that you want to make sure that you are healthy enough to enjoy the fruits of your labor at the end of the journey. Now, how do we do that? We use plant-based foods to help you power your productivity and profits, okay? And in our membership, we offer you up meal plans, shopping lists, recipes, access to the replays of these EMP weekly reviews, special events, offers, and also a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who want to do the exact same thing as you. And we offer this for the low investment of $30.23 per quarter.
Yes, we sure do. And this month, it's a new month. We have a new topic coming.
Me too.
Tomato, 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 potato, potato. Are we going to call the whole thing off, Brandy?
Yes, we are.
So, with that said, Brandy's going to prepare fresh bruschetta. See, there's the Italian. There it is. On cucumber discs.
Yes.
So, bruschetta, of course, has I pomodori on it, the tomatoes. So we'll see how all of that works. I'm done with Italian.
I love it.
So we'll take a little break as Brandy sets up everyone, and Brandy will be back with the fresh bruschetta. See you soon.
Hey. So yes, we are making bruschetta, or the way that Chauncey said it. It's a simple Italian dish that's usually served on a French baguette that's been toasted a little bit, covered with olive oil, and then finished with a rub of the garlic clove, right? Fresh garlic clove. I don't know if people know that's a little trick to help get that extra punch of garlic into the dish. So we're going to pretty much keep it pretty traditional. Sans the olive oil and sans the French baguette. We're going to instead use some cucumbers in order to carry this yummy, I don't know if this is a spread, if it's a dip. I don't know exactly what you would classify it as, but I do know that it's super tasty. The reason I think that bruschetta is such a versatile and highly appreciated dish by so many people is the simplicity. And when people do it, like, it's usually a dish that's made with really ripe tomatoes, so they have that nice sweetness to them, so we really get to appreciate that. Garlic, and of course our good friend basil. So that is all of those ingredients get an opportunity to show up and show out because of the simplicity of this particular dish. I've seen this dish made in many different ways. Sometimes people do it with your traditional plum tomato. Sometimes you may see it done with a grape tomato and the medley color. So you might have the yellow and the red as a part of the recipe. Basil always plays a role in the traditional, but there have been some interesting alternatives where people have made bruschetta with kale. I don't know if it lands the same place flavor wise, but I do like the idea of being flexible with the things that you have available in your kitchen. I mean, it's not an herb, but you know how people love kale. And if you don't know, we actually kicked off 2021 with a whole series on kale. So if you missed that, be sure to check out our membership site if you are a member, or our YouTube channel while the replays are still live there. We go deep into kale, also known as Caluary, this year. So I just chopped up the garlic, and because we're going to make this a pretty, I'm going to call it a petite bite, because we're putting it on the cucumber, so we don't want really big chunks of tomatoes, really big chunks of garlic. We want things to be pretty, small, but not like smash. You still want the garlic to kind of show up. So you just cut it a few times, smash it, peel it, and then just cut it. So there we go. Have that set to the side. Now we're going to get into these tomatoes. One thing about tomatoes, lots of times people will cut off the whole top of the tomato in an attempt to get rid of this little core piece right here. But what we like to do at Entrepreneur Meal Plan is to not waste. So literally all we do is cut this little core piece out, discard it, and then you have your whole tomato to play with. And so just a little tip if you are trying to maximize your produce. Now, bruschetta, the reason bruschetta is so nice and you get that sweet, yummy flavor from the tomato is because this tomato is cored during the process of preparation. Now, what is coring? Coring is getting rid of the seeds inside. So they're literally taken out. It's also the same thing that you do when you are making salsa, like a pico de gallo. So if you've ever made pico de gallo, totally different flavor profile, totally different type of food, but same ingredients. If you make a pico de gallo, you're going to do the same thing in order to make sure that it doesn't end up being a salsa. The seeds are the things that make the salsa. The pico gives you just that nice dry tomato that really allows you to appreciate and honor, so to say, the nice body, sweetness, and flavor of the tomato. So literally just cord it and then cut it. Now, we don't waste. We try not to waste. We don't want to waste. So what do we do with these cores? These cores are a great addition or a great base for a oil-free salad dressing. So you could take these, put them into the blender with a little bit of vinegar or an herb of your choice, blend it up, and put it on top of a salad. And it's very tasty. And that's, the freshness that tomatoes bring that I think really helps us to enjoy it on other vegetables. So that's the deal with how do we use our cores. We don't want to just waste them. You could also say, for instance, you were making some grains, you were making some beans, you were making something like that. You could put them in addition to like the broth. So it adds an additional layer of flavor to your dish. And tomatoes, even though you don't necessarily get like the umami flavor from the tomato in its original form, once it cooks down into a paste, that umami flavor that we love in food shows up in the dish. And if you put it into like a soup or something, you kind of get a note of that as it reduces, but also like the brightness and sweetness that we have from our tomato already. So yeah, just coring the second one, repeating the process, core, use our lines, cut it one way, cut it the other way. And like I say, we're cutting pretty small dices because we are going with a bite that will be served on a cucumber. Now, the reason I decided to go with a cucumber is because I had some in the house. You guys know how I like to use what's already here. And it's just a nice way to reimagine how do we present a bruschetta. Say, for instance, we don't have any bread. We don't have a French baguette. We don't have anything. That's just a nice way to think about a different vehicle that you can carry it on. And it's, cucumbers are really yummy. They're in season-ish. In season-ish, meaning that we just came technically out of cucumber season, but these good old hot house cucumbers that are always available, the ones that are available in plastic, they're in season all the time, and we eat them a lot during this year. Alrighty, so I just finished preparing my tomatoes. We're also going to add a little red onion to this. Now, I don't know if traditionally red onion is a part of a bruschetta, but what I do know is I like red onion in my bruschetta. Now, if you don't like onions, don't put it in there. It's going to still be yummy, but I do. So I'm going to cut this onion. And if you haven't seen us cut an onion before here, I'm going to just show you how to do that. So the bottom of your onion, the top of your onion, you always want to cut from top to bottom, okay? So I'm going to cut like right down the middle, top to bottom. You have your halves, just like we did with the good old tomato. We're going to use our lines. All right, we're going to cut that front piece off so it makes it easier to peel. And I can use my peels and my front piece for some broth. Because like I say, what don't we do here? We don't waste. We don't waste. All right. So good old onion. Cut some lines in. I'm not going to cut it all the way in because we're not making a huge serving of this. And because I want these to be small, I'm cutting a lot more lines across the top so that when I go back down over this onion, I end up with smaller dices versus big ones that I have to kind of recut like we did with the garlic. Now, the garlic, it's a little easier because it's so small to just kind of go over with the knife. Whereas you could do that with the onions, but there's some onion cutting purists that believes once you start to break the onion up like that, you totally change like the taste of it and it's not the same anymore. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if it matters, but if you are interested in maintaining the purity of an onion, that's a fun fact for you to have in your arsenal. All right, now we have this good old fresh basil. I personally believe that, I know that tomato is kind of the star. It's technically the star of a bruschetta, but something about this basil that just really takes it to the next level. And basil's one of my favorite spices. It just smells so good. And I was talking to a friend recently, and we were talking about the disservice that dried basil does to its fresh counterpart, right? So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of dried basil. It does not translate well at all. So if you're going to have basil, I recommend the fresh. Now, what we're going to do is cut some ribbons. So how do we cut ribbons? I just stacked all these leaves up, and then we're going to roll them, similar to if you were, I was making a, what is that called? Like a cinnamon bun or cinnamon roll or something. If you ever made fresh cinnamon rolls, roll them up, and then you cut them. I guess like a cigar, right? I mean, not that we're making a cigar, but in a cylinder shape like a cigar. And then we cut them into thin ribbons. And these ribbons, it's just a nice presentation. It also helps us to get like a bite of this yummy goodness in every bite. In addition to it, it releases some of the oils that are naturally in the leaves of herbs, and it smells absolutely amazing. So what are we going to do now? We've prepped all this stuff here. We're going to now just put it into a bowl, a simple bowl right here. I'm going to find a tool. I'm going to use my knife to get this in here. So I'm going to start with the tomatoes on the bottom. Doesn't really matter. We're going to stir it up. I just feel better when I put the tomatoes on the bottom. I like to put the tomatoes in first and then the onions. And then I do a little garlic and a little basil. And then I taste because I just want to make sure that, the balance is really nice. And with food, always, guys, you have to eat it. You have to enjoy it. The only way you get to build your palate and trust your instincts is if you do, and then you adjust. So don't be scared to try. Like in entrepreneurship, right? You kind of just take the leap and you adjust as you go along. Same rules apply in the kitchen, right? Same rules apply. For basil, I know I love basil. I also know that I want to add a little bit of salt and pepper, which is really simple. I did not bring it over, so I'm going to go and grab it from my pantry. And just a little bit of salt just brings out the goodness in these tomatoes. Pepper. Just feel like those two. And that's literally all you need on this. Salt, pepper. And I'm going to drizzle a little bit of, what do you call that? A little bit of balsamic at the end. But I just want to taste it now. Like, done. So good. And everything like melts together really nicely, which is really, really sweet. Really sweet. Now, what do? Cucumber, right? We're going to make our disc because you could just eat this out of the bowl. Totally tasty. But, you know, it's always nice to be able to pick stuff up with something. So we're going to use a cucumber. Now, I'm going to give you 2 ways to cut this cucumber. You can cut this cucumber like traditionally in slices. And I would recommend giving it a little bit of weight, right? So we don't want to cut them too thin because you do want to be able to pick up and bite into that lovely bruschetta. But if you wanted to create a different shape disc, you could cut a log size, I guess, and then cut them lengthwise, right? Same thing. You want to give it a little bit of weight because you totally want to be able to hold it in it, not just like fall apart, but it gives you different opportunities to present and enjoy this yummy, yummy dish. All right, so I'm going to build the final bite and come over and meet you guys in a second to answer questions. So see you in a sec.
Okay. Bruschetta.
Yes.
All right. So questions, if you have questions, everyone type them in for us and we'll get to them as well. Also, don't forget about EMP Drea moderating there off cam. Brandy, number 1 question from me. What makes a baguette a baguette?
You're funny. What makes a baguette a baguette? It's the process of how the bread is cooked and how long it takes for it to rest before you actually bake it, so that it gets that crusty outside and that soft inside. So you know how you can see some breads that look like baguettes, but it's that crusty outside and that soft inside that makes it a baguette.
Okay. Why is an Italian dish on a piece of French bread? What's going on?
It's simple. I want to say that it has a lot to do with the simplicity. And I could make up a whole story. And maybe it was created by a couple, and one was Italian and one was French. And it was their way to come together into one dish and kind of find a middle ground in their relationship.
Sounds like an animated movie.
It does, right? Something that Disney should buy from us.
Well, question. No comment. Question from Drea. What's another vegetable that could be used to substitute for the cucumber?
I would run with a zucchini, honestly. And probably I would grill it first, just so that you really get that nice, like, char, like, flavor, that caramelization flavor, and then kind of build that with the tomatoes. That's what I would go with.
What about this? Would eggplant work?
Eggplant would be a great one. Yet again, I would grill it though. I would want it to be. I want it to have some. I think because bruschetta is usually served on toast, so there's like this crunchiness that you wanna have. The outside hard, the inside soft. So. Yeah.
Exactly. Is it always better to keep things simple in cooking?
Yes. In life and cooking, absolutely. That's why, like, especially with fresh ingredients, if you get like really fresh, good quality ingredients, you don't have to use that many of them to get something really yummy.
Yeah, exactly. But what are some of the possible pitfalls of being simple, Brandy?
Some of the possible pitfalls of being simple. If you're simple and you never go out of the box, it could kind of, I guess, block you in, so to say. But I'm a big fan of simplicity first, honestly. Like, I don't know if it's ever bad to want to end up in a simple place, but don't get so stuck on simplicity that you don't explore to make sure that, there are no other options. So.
Mm-hmm. Why do tomatoes and cucumbers work so well together?
You know what? I think it's because they're the misunderstood fruit. Botanically, cucumbers and tomatoes are fruit, and we write them off as vegetables all the time. So I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with the fact that they have this relationship that just goes well together, and maybe it started at the fact that they're misrepresented in society.
Misrepresented, misunderstood. Nina Simone sang about that.
Oh, yes, she did.
Mm-hmm. Now, what if you can't eat tomatoes? We talked about swapping the cucumber. What could you swap for the tomato?
If you can't eat the tomato, you could make a bruschetta with a white bean bruschetta. I've made a white beans bruschetta and I've enjoyed it.
That sounds good.
It's very, very yummy. And you just take all of the ingredients except for the tomato. Like the white bean kind of becomes your tomato.
Some garlic in there?
Definitely. Yeah.
That's inspiring.
Look at that.
Now, you know me, Brandy, I'm not going to do it, but I thought about it.
And that's really good for Chauncey, guys. Trust.
I'm a man of routine. Yeah, but I would eat it. Mm-hmm. You can make that for me one day. Why not?
I got you.
Now, one more question. If you have questions, everyone share. When would you go for dried herbs over fresh herbs? Is there ever a time when that's appropriate?
So, dried herbs, if you're going to cook, it's really interesting. If you're going to cook them in something, I always like to cook things in dry. But if I'm going to like finish off something, I like to finish off fresh. Or if I'm going to stir in a fresh stir in at the end. It's something, the fresh herbs lose their personality when you put them in too early. I want to say the things that I like, dried herbs, and I'm like, oh, I really think those are cool, is Italian seasoning on pizza. I know it's totally like, we're talking about Italian, have an Italian dish, but that herb works really well as an herb if it's a good quality, because I've had Italian seasoning that tastes like sawdust, and no one, that's not really fun.
Yeah. Okay, so that's very edifying for all of us. Even the basil, because you said you didn't like basil dried as much, or basil, as they say in British English.
Yes, I don't think it does the herb any justice. I really don't.
So even if you were cooking you would still use fresh at the end, like you were saying?
I would. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Especially
maybe a nice garnish.
Yeah.
You're inspiring me today. Look at that.
Hmm.
So, with that said, Brandy will, of course, end by showing us the finished product. Before we get to that, Brandy, remind us why we're here, and then I'll wrap it up.
Look at that, guys. Yes, thank you so much, Chauncey. Thanks, Drea. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today for EMP Review. We come together once a week to remind entrepreneurs that it's important to take care of yourself as you build your business. And we do that by helping you to use plants to power your profits and your productivity. Our community supports you with other people on the same journey as you. In addition, we give you meal plans, recipes, shopping lists, replays to these experiences, and continue to find ways to help make the journey of entrepreneurship more enjoyable and less lonely. And so if you are joining us live, we appreciate you joining us live. If you're watching us in a replay, we appreciate you watching us in a replay, and we are proud that you have decided to take the journey of entrepreneurship, and even more proud to be your supporters along this journey.
We certainly are, and we'll be back next Wednesday. That's July 14th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will continue tomato at that time. So thanks for joining us, as Brandy said, everybody. And always do life and business well. So I'll say goodbye. Brandy, show us that dish.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Look at that. All right. And just for fun, we got it. We have this version. We have the discs. And we'll drizzle a little bit of balsamic just to make it yummy. Oh, that's a lot. But that's why the bread helps to soak it up. But now you can dip the good old cucumbers in it. Alrighty, guys. Till next week.